Spain is reeling after a violent storm swept through the large part of the country, bringing torrential rain, violent wind and sudden hailstorm that turned streets into river overnight. The region of Madrid, Valencia and Andalusia were among the hardest hit, as emergency service walked through the night and the rescue stranded residents to clear blocked roads. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense autumn storms in recent years. It will the guest exceeded 120 km/h in the capital areas. The Spanish weather agency issued red alert, warning cities to stay indoors where necessary travel. In Madrid, heavy flooding forced the closure of several metro stations and caused several traffic chaos. It was like a waterfall coming down the streets, said local resident Laura Gomez. Cars were flooding, trees were fallen. It felt apocalyptic. In Valencia, firefighters reported the dozens of emergency calls and a flash flood inundated in low-lying neighborhoods.
يا الله شباب هطول عنيف جدا 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 الزلة دفاق.
A wave of intense hailstorms swept across Europe, leaving behind broken roofs, destroyed groups and devastating communities from Italy to Germany, France and Poland. Meteorologists described the event as one of the strongest hailstorms in the recent year, caused the collisions of cold southern air and a fast-moving cold front that swept across the continent. In Italy, especially the areas around Rome and Emilia-Romagna, the storm was accompanied by thunderstorm winds and hailstorms the size of walnuts, which pelted cars and roofs and a thunderstorm roar. In a matter of seconds, it was winter, said local residents Luca De Santis. The streets turned white, we could hardly see anything. Several motorists were stranded off ice-blocked drainage system, flooded tunnels and city roads. Further north in Bavaria, Germany, the storm caused chaos in communities near the Munich and Augsburg. Cars were damaged, routes were uprooted and public transport was halted. Local authorities received more than 1,200 emergency calls in a few hours. Paris, France, the hit of European most iconic city through the interdiary as a violent overnight storm battered Paris and surrounding suburbs, leaving behind the trail of destruction rarely seen in modern times. The violent tempest driven by the deep Atlantic pressure system unleashed torrential rainfall, differing thunder and hurricane-force winds, plunged parts of the capital in the darkness and the chaos. According to the Meteo of France, Paris endured record-breaking rainfall, more than 16 mm in just 4 hours, flooding entire districts including said German Dispel, Baseline and Atlantic water. The city again drainage networks strategically to cope, tuning cobblestone streets into fast-moving rivers. It was terrifying, said Claire Depot, who lives near Gerard Lion. When in a minute water was knee-deep, cars were flooding, the lighting was so bright it felt like driving for a second. Authorities reported over 1,800 emergency calls, with firefighters rescuing dozens trapped in the basements and underground car park. Local authorities reported thousands of homes temporarily without electricity. The intensity of the rainfall overlapped the city drainage system, officials said. Farmers across southern Spain also suffered major losses. The high of the size of a golf ball damaged crops and greenhouse. This storm destroyed weeks of work, letting it a farmer near Seville. Experts warn that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent due to climate change. Weather aide Hood Mama is through with a full, more violent storm, explaining climatologist Dr. Giulia Ortega. As the storm moves eastward toward the Mediterranean, cleanup efforts are underway, but many Spaniards are shockingly remain. A violent storm wreaked havoc across large parts of Europe, bringing torrential rain, strong winds, and widespread flooding that paralyzed both cities and rural communities. The storm, one of the strongest in recent years, hit countries from Spain, France, and Germany and Poland, leaving millions of people affected. In the northern Italy, roads turned into rivers. In a matter of hours, the rescue service struggled to save motorists who were trapped. In Bavaria, Germany, entire areas were left without power and winds exceeding 113 km an hour. Several European nations have been struck by a wave of violent hailstorm, leaving behind the scene of chaos, destruction, and disbelief. From northern Italy to southern Germany, Austria, and parts of France, residents awakened the road coated in ice, damaged vehicles, and crews destroyed it in the fields. Meteorologists say the storm were followed by the clash of moist Mediterranean air with a strong cold front from the northern Europe, creating a supercell condition. Hailstorms, some larger than golf ball, powdered the city center and rural area alike. In Munich, cars were left with the shattered widespread, while the Bologna, Italy public transport was paralyzed. The hail-covered tram stack. Agriculture Associational report to severe losses. Vineyard in Tuscany and orange in Austria suffered significant damage, with the farmers describing the storm as the worst in decades. One farmer near Verona lamented, "In 10 minutes we lost what we had worked for all year." Emergency services were inundated vehicles. Dozens of injuries were reported, mainly from the falling hail and the raw accident caused by sudden ice leaks. Firefighters in Austria rescued motorists stranded on a highway blackened in ice, while the France-Rhone Valley flooded added the crisis and a hail-blocked drains. Video shared widely online showed iconic city squares buried under a layer of ice, sparked disbelief among the viewers. Tourists caught in the storm described as apocalyptic in the like winter in the middle of summer. Experts warn that Europe have seen a rise in extreme hail events in recent years, while the climate change likely intensify with volatility. Scientists know that the winter air cold most may issue falling stronger storm capable of production lashed destructive hail. Several music festivals and outdoors events were cancelled, leaving thousands of visitors stranded in makeshift shelters. Switzerland too reported significant damage. In Zurich and Lorentz, public transport was suspended as a hail closed rail lines and flooded tram tunnels. Airways saw delays, where insurers prepared for the decided one of the most expensive summer storms in recent years. Hospitals across affected countries treated hundreds of injuries from cuts of barriers and the most serious trauma caused by the fallen debris. Power outage hit tens of thousands of homes, while schools and businesses closed in the hardest hit regions. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by the collisions of humid Mediterranean air with the cold northern winds, producing intense supercells capable of generating giant hail. Scientists warn such events are becoming more frequent as Europe warns. We are seeing a climate shift, say climatologist Dr. Eva Schmidt. Storms like these, once rare, are now growing through it. Despite the disruption, communities are relevant. Volunteers cleared streets of ice, neighborhood shattered fruits, and the standard travels and emergency crew worked tirelessly to restore power. As Europe begin counting the cost and a hailstorm severe as another stark reminder of nature growing volatility and the urgent need to resilience in affairs of climate experts.
برضه عندي الاستراحة بس يخف إن شاء الله.
Istanbul was hit by a sudden and severe hailstorm that turned a bustling metropolis into a scene of chaos and destruction. The storm, which lasted less than an hour, brought hailstones the size of a golf ball, smashed windows, damaged cars, and injured dozens of people who were outdoors. The city's streets were quickly covered with a white layer of hail, with a blockade and severe and causing sudden flooding. Major highways, including Bosphor Bridge, were paralyzing, and cars were unable to drive through the city's sewers. Public transport was severely disrupted. Tram lines were blocked and ferry service across the strait were suspended. Istanbul International Airport also reported delays after runways were brilliantly covered in hail. Emergency service responded there hundreds of calls, rescuing people trapped in their cars and clearing collapsing owners and hit collapsing under the weight of hail. Hospitals treated dozens of people and cars and hit injuries, and authorities confirmed at least 2 deaths related to the storm. Residents described a sense of panic. It felt like the sky was falling. The noise of hail falling on the roof was different. In a matter of minutes, our streets looked like a cat snowed, said Ice Demir, a shop owner in Cadio. Video posted online showed buses stuck knee-deep in the water and trees blocked by the force of the storm. Agriculture in the surrounding Marmara region suffered significant damage. Vineyards and orchards were damaged, threatening in the harvest and local livelihood. Insurance companies are already estimated the damage of tens of millions of euros. On a Monday, tornadoes swept through the area in North Parish, knocking down trees, construction cranes, killing 1 person and seriously injuring 4 others, authorities said. The town of Airmont, located about 20 km northwestern of Parish, was hardest hit, with a sudden whirlwind damaged about 10 neighborhoods. Regional professor Giulia Romano said 23-year-old construction worker died at a construction site and 10 people were injured, for them critically. Authorities said the tornado knocked down cranes and turned off-road. Interior Minister Larry News said to Platform X that was a storm, a sudden of rare intensity. He added, "I am closely monitoring the situation and experienced by a support official. Rescue at the scene the affected residents. I offer my condolences on the family and loved one of the deceased." Paris, the French capital, was brought to standstill on a Wednesday, and the night a sudden and violent storm swept across northern France, unleashed in torrential rain, fires, winds, and dramatic lightning over the heart of Paris. Within just 19 minutes, more than 100 millimeters of rain fell in a hardest downpour recorded in over 2 decades. Communities across Europe are in shock after a series of rare and powerful tornadoes swept through the parts of Germany, France, and Czech Republic, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Authorities have confirmed numerous casualties and more than 200 injured, with the homes destroyed, cars overturned, and power lines down it. Western Germany was the hardest hit, with the powerful wind which swept throughout the residential area, poured down, injured dozens of people, and damaged hundreds of buildings. Roofs were turned off, trees were uprooted, and debris was scattered across highways. It was like a fire train rushing throughout the city, said Catherine Miller, who took shelter in a basement with their family. In northern France, a tornado struck near Calais, overturned trucks on the A18 motorway, and forcing several paths to close. Residents are decided chaos in hail, lightning, and stones when battered cities already drenched in the heavy rain. The Czech Republic, still recent from the devastating tornado in 2021, reported another several storm in southern Bavaria, where homes and farms again destroyed it. Emergency service rushed to help stranded residents and volunteers walking through the night to clear debris from narrow rural streets. Meteorologists say the tornadoes formed after the mist of hot Mediterranean air collided with a cold front moving from the Arctic, creating unstable conditions ideal to supercell storms. Experts warn that the climate change could make Europe more vulnerable to such rare but devastating events. Tornadoes were once considered almost impossible here, explained climatologist Dr. Helena Novak. Now they are becoming a dangerous new reality. The infrastructure of the three countries suffered serious damage. Rail service was suspended, tens of thousands of people were left without power due to power outage, and schools were closed to several regions. Insurance companies estimate the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Despite the devastation, there are stories of resilience. Neighbors formed human change of cleared debris, firefighters rescued trapped families, and the shelters opened their doors to lose their homes. As Europe begins the long process of recovery, the tornado several stuck reminded that extreme weather is no longer confined to remote regions. It now processes to crawl through to hit to the continent. Train service was suspended in several provinces, and dozens of flights were cancelled. He rerouted the Charles of Gaulle and Orly airport. In a Berlex vineyard already vacated the wet summer suffered for the damage, raising fears and a poor harvest. We have lost entire section of our vineyard, explained Winmarker Claire Roseau. This is a devastation blow to our livelihood. In French, entire minister deployed 3,500 firefighters, and the regional governor urged residents to stay indoors. 2 deaths have been confirmed, including the driver who was gassed and crushed in the fallen trees. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the warm Atlantic air colliding with a cold Arctic system, resulting in a strong wind. Such events are becoming more frequent in the intense, warned climatologist Dr. Jean Morel, linking the storm to changing climate conditions. President Emmanuel Macron experienced solidarity with the affected families, promising rapid assistance to fund the recovery. But for many residents, the night of destruction will not to forget anytime soon. We had stormed before, said local teacher Sophie Laurent from Naples, but never anything that shook to earth so much. A violent storm has battered Germany, causing strong winds, torrential rain and widespread disruption north from the North Sea to Bavaria. The system, one of the worst intense of the season, was uprooted trees, torn off roofs and left hundreds of thousands of people without power. In Hamburg and Bremen, storm surge flooded riverside neighborhoods and emergency crews rushed to build bird as the Tiber River overflowed. In Berlin, fallen trees blocked major roads in the tram lines, forcing communities to find alternative roads. Munich international airports reported more than 100 cancelled flights, while trains in Bavaria and Saxony were halted due to the debris in tracks. Authorities confirmed multiple fatalities, including driver crushed by the fallen trees and the rescue workers swept away by the floodwaters. Dozens of people were injured by many debris flying through the city center. Hospital reported an increase in emergency admissions overnight. Residents described the storm as apocalyptic. The wind sounded like a freight train outside my window. We were building and shaking, said Anne Miller, a resident of Berlin.